Hey Lash artists, I'm T the Brand, fellow lashpreneur and lash marketing educator. I teach lash artists to market smarter, lash better, and make clients consistent. Welcome to my channel, and if you're tuned into the Powerhouse Lash podcast, welcome back to the podcast. We have not had an episode on the podcast since March, I think, and I am trying to get that all the way together. And I think the best way to do it is to use the audio from my YouTube videos and just upload them to the podcast. So I'm happy that you're listening. I'm happy that you're watching, and I cannot wait to see how we can move this conversation forward. So I am starting this series here on the channel, and in this little mini series, it is going to be called the Powerhouse Path. And this is a series for the lash artist who has just gotten started, who is super excited and full of passion but has no plan, or the lash artist who is super excited, super passionate, has a plan, but it's kind of starting to see like, okay, the plan ain't playing in the way that I thought it was gonna plan. You know, things aren't going how you want them to go. Or if you just want some encouragement, whatever you need, I hope that this series can give it to you. And I believe that this series can give it to you because this series is about my story. The Powerhouse Path isn't about me telling you what to do. It's about me sharing with you what I have done, how I have messed up, how I have learned, how I have grown, how I have succeeded, and made a sustainable career of doing lash extensions and teaching lash artists how to market and also how to lash, because training was a little part of my journey in the beginning, and now it's made its way back, but we'll talk about the trainings and things later. Let's go ahead and get into the things. What I will say is, unlike most lash artists, I did not have a dream, a goal, a desire, anything to become a lash artist. I was minding my middle school social worker business. So a little backstory to the backstory. In 2016, I graduated from the Prairie View A&M University, my beloved HBCU and alma mater, with my degree in social work. Immediately after January 2017, I started graduate school at Texas A&M Commerce, which I think now is like East Texas A&M or something like that. But at the time, it was Texas A&M University of Commerce, and I earned my Master's of Social Work degree there. Shortly after, I became a licensed master social worker and earned my first job as the Director of Social Services at a nursing and rehab facility. I was 23 years old, and looking back, I was just such a baby. This isn't about the social work career, though. While I was in that position, and in my next position, which after I left the nursing home, I became a middle school social worker, and I was basically performing as a therapist at the middle school. And I loved both of my jobs, like the job description and what I was supposed to be doing. What I did not enjoy was being the youngest woman on an administrative team in both of those settings. I did not enjoy having to be the person to tell the administrators and higher ups that they were wrong for things sometimes, because my job was not necessarily to do what the team wanted, but to advocate for whoever the clients or the residents or whoever it was that I was supposed to serve. At the nursing home, it was the residents. At the school, it was the students. And if an administrator had wronged a student or wronged a resident, I was the person who had to say, hey, you were wrong, you need to go fix this. So being young, being a woman, being a young Black woman, it was not, they didn't really like having to hear that from me. And so it made the work environment a little hostile, very uncomfortable, and I wasn't able to do my job. So anyway, here we are now at the beginning of 2020, and I move out of my parents' house at the end of February. March rolls around the end of February, and then March rolls around. 2 weeks into the month of March, we start hearing this buzz about this COVID-19 situation and how we may not be returning to school after spring break, and nobody really knows what's going on, right? Well, spring break happens, and during spring break, the world gets shut down, and we didn't return back to school. And a month after that, which is now April, I get a call from my principal saying, hey, girl, basically, we're not keeping the social work position, and you don't have a job anymore. Now, I did not immediately panic because I was a salaried worker, and with the school district, we were on contract. My contract didn't end until August, so I still had a few months to collect some checks and figure out what I was going to do next with my life. Over the summertime, I was applying to jobs like crazy. I was applying to different social work jobs within the district that I was in, and I was not getting any responses from those jobs. I don't know if it was because people were on summer break, but when summer break was over, there still wasn't no responses. But yeah, no response. The jobs that I did get responses from, they had very, very, very low salary ranges. And I'm like, listen, all of this school, all of these degrees and this license, if I'm going to struggle, it's got to be a different way to struggle, a better way to struggle. And my goodness, did God have a better way, a different way for me to struggle in his plan. So now we're at July of 2020. I'm on FaceTime with my two best friends, aka the twins. I talk about them a lot. So if you ever hear me say the twins, that's who I'm talking about, my two best friends. We're on FaceTime, and just randomly, at the time I thought it was random, I got the idea to take a lash class. And I tell them, I'm like, I think I want to take a lash training. And they were like, go for it. They believe in, get you some people who believe in you. I don't, if I said I want to scratch rocks, they would have been like, go be the best rock scratcher out there. So get you some people who really support you and will rock with you with whatever you own. That's legal and beneficial to you. Anyway, so I did not follow any lash artists on Instagram. I had only had my lashes done twice before. I knew nothing about a lash extension. And the very next day, a training class popped up on my Instagram timeline, and I knew that was a sign. Hindsight, that was not random at all. That was Holy Spirit giving me my next step. Y'all, pause real quick. Flag on the play. So many times I see lash artists and business owners talking about letting God be their CEO. But when God gives them a directive that does not align with what they had in mind, they struggle to make a decision, or they don't listen at all. Had I ignored that random idea to take a lash class to even do some research into it, well, I didn't have to research. It just popped up on my timeline. But then I researched, I would have missed this part of my life. I would have missed the redirection, and who knows how hard it would have been for me to get to where God wanted me to be. So listen, your random ideas, as smart as you are, as innovative as you are, as resourceful as you are, as creative as you are, as all of the things that you are not God, and he knows things that you don't know. So learn his character through reading his word, so that you know when he's speaking to you and when you just made that up. Okay, so sorry for that random. I'm not sorry for that. Somebody needed to hear that. Amen to that random insert right there. Okay, so I see the lash class pop up on my timeline, and the lash class was like $1,000. My boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, he's like, no, you're not spending all of that on the lash class. My cousin teaches lashes. And I was like, okay. So the cousin's lash class was like $300 or either $375, something like that. It was $300 something. I connected with the cousin, I booked the class, and on August 11th of 2020, I take my lash training. And when I tell you I hit the ground running, honey, immediately after that training, my best friend and we went to a nail store. It's called Nail Supply Glamour, or Nail Glamour Supply, or something like that. Anyway, and so we went there because when I Googled, they sold lash supplies. So I went, I got some lashes, I think I got a glue, I just got some different things that I would need because my kit, it had things, but I needed better quality things. And so I go get those lash supplies, and that's that for the day. On August 12th, my two best friends, the twins, were at my apartment. I had already purchased me a lash bed before the training happened off of Facebook Marketplace. I think I paid $100 for it. I had a little clip-on lamp from Walmart because I didn't have a ring light. I didn't know I needed a ring light. Like I said, I knew nothing about nothing. And my training, unfortunately, did not give me enough of anything that I need for skills, for understanding the equipment, for understanding what I was doing with lash extensions at all. So I had my lash bed, and I practiced on my friends the next day. My first set took me 4 hours. The second set took me 5 hours, but they stayed there with me for over 10 hours for me to get this practice in, and I'm so grateful. Those lashes looked a hot mess. But anyway, let's keep going with the story. Like I said earlier, I started off with no actual clients. So what I did, I was just making Facebook and Instagram posts saying, hey, I'm a certified lash artist now. I need to practice on some models. Just tip me. And so I was just doing lashes for tips. And I had no problem with that because I had no clue what I was doing. I was gluing people's natural lashes together. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad, girl. It was bad. But anyway, people were still coming and I was still grateful. And some of those people, shout out to Sherika. Sherika and I went to high school and college together, and she has been a client since that living room. Child, we have come a long way. But I had no clue what I was doing, but I'm grateful that I had people who still allowed me to practice on them, and some of them eventually became clients. I also had no clue about marketing, so I was making these flyers on, I don't even remember the site name. It couldn't have been Photo Bucket, but maybe it was. I think Photo Bucket is like middle school time, whatever. I was using some app to create my flyers and things, and yeah, it wasn't an actual marketing strategy, but it was doing, I guess, what it needed to do. Again, this was just supposed to be a side hustle, a little change in my pocket while I was now collecting unemployment because it was past August and the contract was over, so I wasn't getting my salary pay from the job that I had anymore. So 2 months later, I'm at a wax appointment and I'm telling my new esthetician that, I'm doing lashes now, and she's excited for me, but she's not so excited that she forgets to tell me that it's illegal to do lashes in the state of Texas without a license. And shout out to her, Portia, because I would have probably had no clue till some time later, and I don't know if I would have had the same momentum that I had to go ahead and enroll in school. So she tells me, she's like, there's a lash school downstairs if you want to go check it out. So I leave the appointment, I go downstairs, I tour the school, I take the information back to my boyfriend and my best friends, and I'm like, well, this is this, and I think I should do it. So I'm thinking about it and all the things, and I decide to enroll into lash school in October of 2020. It was one of the best decisions that I had ever made. So I enroll into lash school. I'm still applying for social work jobs. December of 2020 comes around, and I get an interview for my dream social work job. And I say dream because it was the dream that I had at the time, but it wasn't the dream that God had for me. If you're listening, I put dream in air quotes. That's why I gave that explanation. So I go to this interview, I'm excited, and after the interview is over, maybe a couple of days later, I get an email about a follow-up interview. So the follow-up interview would have to wait, of course, until after Christmas break and everything, so January of 2021. So through the month of December, I am hustling through lash school. I'm knocking out all of my assignments, and I was a hybrid student, so I had the time to do it, which meant on Mondays, I would go in for theory, and the rest of the week, I was at my apartment doing lashes. Now I moved out of my apartment at some point in 2020. I can't remember exactly when, but I had a cousin who came to get her lashes filled. She was like, cousin, I got some space that you can use. She had this big suite that she did taxes out of, but inside of the suite was a small private suite that she used to do massages out of. So it was already set up, lash bed, decoration, just anything that I could need. And she allowed me to use that space for free until I was ready to get my own suite. So I'm gonna bring you back to January. So now it's January 2021. I am very hopeful for this social work job. It is another school position, but I'm not confined to one school. I would be able to service multiple schools and, different grade levels, and I was just so excited. And I remember getting ready to walk into that interview, and I prayed and I told the Lord, God, if I don't get this job, I'm going to trust that you want me to go full time with this lash business. I had already applied and rushed to get my LLC done for my lash business. Like I said, I was knocking out those assignments, recording them and sending them in to get, credit through lash school. I did that interview and I did not get that job. I did not get that job, and I had to honor my word and take this lash business seriously. So that's what I did. So now that I am officially a full-time lash artist whose skills still aren't super great, but improving through the months, and I'm still a lash school student, I go ahead and roll out full-time. So now I have a booking site, and now I have all of these policies and all of the things. But what I didn't have was secure, reliable valuable clientele. I did not know anything about marketing. And so I invested in a marketing mentor. There was a lash artist online who was sharing all kinds of crazy lash game and info and wisdom. And she had an online class and she had a mentoring program. I first bought her online class. I learned a lot from that video, and it really did help me. Canva was one of the things that I first learned about from that video, and I think I still have some of the notes on my old iPad. After watching her video, I went ahead and invested into her mentorship program. And the mentorship program was great until I realized that all she had for me was information. She did not know how to help me apply the information, and I started feeling this frustration, and instead of me being mad from the frustration, I just used it to help me kind of help shape what I wanted to do in the industry. I realized there is a gap here. Like, there are people out here who are giving you great information, could even be the right information, but if they don't know how to help you apply the information, all that you're getting from them is great information, and that's not worth paying for. I wanted to be a lash marketing mentor who could help you both, one, learn the things and apply the things, but I had to do the work first. So prematurely, I did launch my first mentorship program in November or October of 2021. And during this, and I say prematurely because there were still things that I needed to learn. I knew things, I knew how to make some things work. And when I say things, I'm talking specifically like target audience, but I hadn't had enough practice with it to really be able to, what I felt, help someone. Now, shout out to my girl, Kennedy Nicole Aesthetics. She was one of the mentees in that program, and she always lets me know when we have conversations, or if I launch a new product, I always send it to her first to get her eyes and her thoughts on it. And she just always reminds me that mentorship program in 2021 really helped her. She still goes back to the notes to this day when she feels stuck. And her lash business has evolved in so many ways. She now does brows and all the things. But I'm saying this to say, while I didn't feel like it was very impactful, someone else felt like it was very impactful, very helpful, and I am grateful for that. So, in the midst of me launching this mentorship program, I am no longer able to afford my lash suite. And I have to come to the tough decision to let it go. So before I let the suite go, I'm on the phone with my best friend one day, and I'm really just kind of trying not to be down on myself. I'm like, there's a lash position at this spa that's not far from here that I want to apply for, but I felt like a loser. I felt like after months of working after at this point over a year of working for myself as a lash artist, to have to go work for somebody, it just felt like I had failed, like I had, I don't know, lost. I felt like a little loser. and so she encouraged me, and she let me know, that's not true, and you don't know what you could learn from this place and all of the things. So at the time, the apartment that my boyfriend and I were living in, this spa was like less than a minute walking distance from the apartment. Like, I literally could walk to work and not break a sweat. So I applied for the job, and I called and I let them know, like, hey, this is my name, and I see that you guys are applying. I live right across the street, blah, blah, blah. I sent them my Instagram information. The next day, I had an interview with the owner of the spa, and I think the following day, she hired me. So in the midst of me building this mentorship program and being an independent lash artist, I let my suite go, and I start working at this spa. I worked at this spa from November of 2021 until May of 2022. During this time, I brought 5 clients with me from my suite to the spa. I only had 5 clients, but the spa was already up and running, and so people were booking at the spa, and I was glad about that because I was able to now make some income from lashing. I also did not have the responsibility during this time of actually running the full business. I didn't have to find the clients to book, and I didn't have to, run all of the things. So I was really able to focus on marketing and branding. I built the identity of T the brand's business, Powerhouse Lashes. I was also able to learn how to make all of the things that I had learned, or all of the information I had been given, work. I had the time to really sit down and say, hey, this is who I want as a target audience. And I got very specific. And in my content, I only talked to that person. I only created content for that person. My brand identity, which meant the colors that I picked and the logos that I used and the energy that you felt through the screen, all of the things that go into a brand, which I will make another video about. I centered it around that person, my target audience. And then my marketing, the way that I put the content out, I did it on brand for my target audience. And I grew my clientele, my clientele. And when I say my clientele, I mean people who found me, not people who found the spa. I grew my clientele from 5 clients to 25 clients in 3 months. May not seem like a lot to you, but baby, 20 clients in 3 months? Where they do that at? And that is when I knew I had a little sauce, and now I could really help the lash artist out. So I'm working at this spa. I'm making this spa a lot of money. I'm barely touching any of the money that I'm making this spa. My CPA tells me, like, yeah, in the long run, that's not going to work out for you. So I schedule a meeting with the owner of the spa. She offers me a 3% raise, which felt like a slap in the face considering all the income that I was bringing in. And I had the numbers down, okay? I don't play when it's time to meet. Remember, I was a social worker, and in the social work field, if you do not document it did not happen. So I had all the receipts, okay? And so that was that. I accepted the 3% raise, but I also cut my days back because at that point I knew I need to do something different for me. I am building clientele now for myself through my own marketing. And I cannot continue to funnel my clientele and my income through this place and be taxed when I'm the one doing the work to get these people in. So at that point, it was kind of like I'm going to take your booking link out of my bio. I'm going to lash my clients where I'm going to lash my clients. And at the time, that was in my apartment again. And your clients, I will lash them here on these days that I'm available. That kind of bothered her, but she didn't say anything to me directly. Unfortunately, I walked into work one day, and as I'm eating a sandwich and some hot fries, I keep hearing a name that sounds like T from a room with her and another employee. And it turned out that they were having a powwow about me and about the meeting, and they said a lot of ugly things. And I quit immediately. I had a client in the lobby. I let our receptionist know, hey, I have an emergency. I have to go. I apologized to the client. I went back to the room. I didn't have much but my little kit. I put all my stuff back in my kit, and I was out of there. I brought back a resignation letter that evening to the owner for formality, but that was a wrap. And what was crazy, at that time, I was also telling my boyfriend, who's now again husband, the names are confusing me now. I was telling him, like, I think I want to come back home and lash. And then I ended up leaving that job, so I'm now lashing between the couch and the kitchen in this little space. And I was still getting new clients from that space, and thankfully that only lasted for about 2 weeks because we had prepared to move into a different apartment unit that would allow me to service my clients comfortably at home. This was 2022, and over the years, I have lashed from home for 2 years, jumped out in 2024 to work at a very beautiful new lash salon here in the city of Dallas. I left there, that's another story. I left there, and then I was preparing to open up my own lash salon. Then God took me on a detour there, and I launched or moved into Powerhouse Lash Haven, which was the Duncanville suite that I lashed in from January of 2025 until September of 2025, and I just moved out of that lash suite to return as a home-based lash artist for the 4th time. And this go round, I am so grateful to be back at home. I have never appreciated my home space so much. My clients are vocal about how much they love this space, and I'm just really grateful to be here. The point of this video, because it is getting a little lengthy, the point of this video is to just really kind of share that what was my missing piece for growing my clientele and creating a business that I could sustain and that could sustain me in return was target audience. That was the missing key. And once I fully understood who my target audience was, my marketing, my content, my bookings, everything improved, and I started seeing growth in my business. That's what makes me most proud about the success that I've been able to see in my lash career. And when I say success, I mean success based on the goals that I have set for myself and I have achieved. I have been a super booked lash artist. I have had multiple mentorship program relaunches where I've been able to help other lash artists understand why their marketing isn't working, why they post all of this content and still nobody's booking, how to navigate burnout, because honestly you cannot avoid it, especially in these beginning stages, and these beginning stages last for at least a good year or two. So if you thought you were only going to be a beginner for 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, sorry, not sorry. You need to know that it is going to take time for you to perfect your craft and for you to become a really good marketer. So I am grateful that I get to share with other lash artists, from being a speaker at conferences that include the hold on, I'm trying to go in order. The Lash Biz Babes Lash Biz Babes conference, that is an online virtual conference. The Elite Lash Convention, which was a conference held here in Dallas 2024. That was the first conference that I had the privilege, the honor, the opportunity to speak at. The International Lash Expo, which I went to Arizona and Miami within its first year, but at Arizona I was just an attendee. I won a ticket, and at Miami I had the opportunity to speak as a panelist. And then the biggess conference in the industry, the Lash Conference, aka LashCon. And then this year I had the opportunity to speak at the Beyond Beauty Brunch and Lash Boss Summit. So in all of my educating, I am educating about marketing and how to make content easier by understanding who your target audience is. I really love being able to pour this into other lash artists, because like I said earlier in this video, in 2021, when I realized there was a gap between people giving information and people helping people apply the information, I wanted Powerhouse Lashes to stand in that gap, and it has done absolutely that. And I get to help other lash artists avoid some of the same mistakes. You know, you don't have to have it all figured out when you get started. You just have to have faith, and you have to have the willpower to follow through with what you're putting your faith towards. Starting small doesn't mean that you're unqualified. One of my favorite scriptures to share is Zechariah 4:10, which reads, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." God used a lot of trial and error to give me the wisdom that I have to teach now. And if you're in your season of no clients or slow clientele building, no clue what to do, want to quit, don't quit. Do not quit. You are in the foundational season of your business, and I'm just so excited to be here to walk with you through it. If you choose to be a part of this community here on the Powerhouse Lash podcast or on the YouTube channel. So that is that. I just want to remind you guys before I wrap this video up that the Powerhouse Path is about me showing you how to achieve success when you start from the bottom. I didn't have a ton of money that I walked into to do anything with my brand. Like I said, I built this brand off of tips from people letting me do their lashes and unemployment. So I know what it's like to get your shovel and dig and get it out the mud. I want to encourage you, if you are not already a subscriber to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I promise you will feel community here. You will grow here. You will learn here. You will be encouraged here. And if you are listening to the podcast, go ahead and follow the podcast on whatever platform that you are streaming from. I am excited excited to continue to share with you how I've taken this lash business by the grace of God and guidance of God from living room lashes to speaking on industry stages, and that this journey wasn't random but a true assignment. If you enjoyed this video, if you have any questions, if you have anything, drop it in the comments, like the video, and I cannot wait to talk to y'all in the next one.